Hello, hello. Happy Vlogmas. It is day 23. If y'all are like, why is she so shocked by that every day? Because I am. Time sort of means nothing to me. And the fact that we've been at this for 22 days so far, and the fact that Christmas is in a couple of days, like my life doesn't register all of these things. So I am surprised. Hello to everybody who is here in the chat. Glad you could join me today. Let me know that the sound is okay and that we're good to go and everybody can hear me. Um, Thank you all again for helping us get to 20,000 subscribers here on YouTube. That was the goal before the end of the year, and we got there, and it's great and it's fabulous. It is wild that there are 8 days left to this year because, like, it does not feel like it has been 12 months. I don't know how long it feels like, but it does not feel like 12 months. Okay, so um yesterday we started, over this vlogmas, we've talked about we've talked about moving abroad, we've talked about finances, we've talked about travel. And so for the last few days I figured we talk about, life here, a variety of things, including my life here in Mexico City. If you are new, either you got here because you saw me on CNBC's page, or the YouTube algorithm fed you this video. Hello, welcome. We are glad you are here. Welcome to the Vicky Girl Nation. My name is Adelia Aborishade. I live in Mexico City. I left the United States 7 years ago because I wanted to live my life differently and I wanted to live a life that I loved. And so that's some of the stuff we talk about here on this channel. So welcome, glad you're here. We will go ahead and get started because I do have to be mindful of time today because I mentioned a little earlier this counts as part of my life here in Mexico City, that I am in the process of trying to find a new apartment. And so I have a showing scheduled right after this. We're not going to get into that today. Maybe we'll talk about that on Wednesday if the showing I have today goes well, or maybe not. Or the showing I have on Tuesday goes well. Maybe that's what we'll talk about on the Wednesday night live. Um, but yesterday, in talking about my life here in Mexico City, I shared with y'all some of the things that I think that are the best things about living here. And I was kind of rushed because my delivery was late. They interrupted the live stream. And right after I got off live with y'all, I remembered something that wasn't on that list. So I'm reserving the right to add that, even though today's video is all about the worst things about living here. What I did not mention yesterday was Jacaranda season. These are some trees that I believe are native to Brazil, or maybe the Japanese gardener who brought them here. He brought them here from Brazil. But being in Mexico City from about late February, early March into late April, when the jacarandas all around the city are in bloom, they're these gorgeous purple flowers. It is magical to be here that time of year. The city is so beautiful. So that's one of my other favorite things about living here. If you want to know the others, go back to day 22 of Vlogmas and you can see those there. Okay, so what are the worst things about life in Mexico City? Well, Going back to why the live had to be cut short yesterday, I mentioned to y'all, okay, I go live 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 1 p.m. Central here in Mexico City. When I placed the order, I said it has to be here before 1. That was my first mistake. I should have known better. And they said, okay, 12:30. I thought, great. That gives me 30 minutes of wiggle room before I have to go live. And then they text me at 12:30 to say, your order is on its way, and it arrived 45 minutes late. So here in Mexico City, but Mexico as a whole, time is a construct. And I don't think it's a construct a lot of people give much thought to. Uh, Yeah, I like I said, that was my mistake. I knew better. I should have said, "No, either can y'all come at 11:30 or noon or come after 1:30." That's what I should have said because I have lived here long enough to know better, okay? Um, time does not it doesn't work the same way here, and it doesn't mean the same thing. So, is that I debated whether or not I should put that as one of the worst things. Actually, as far as I'm concerned, it is not the biggest deal. I think I have adapted to that fairly well. But yesterday, it was a particular problem. But generally speaking, it is not that big of a deal to me that things rarely start when they are said to start. People don't typically show up when they say they will be there, or that, like, when you go to a restaurant or a business, the hours that are posted, those are really a guideline. It is far and few between to find places that actually adhere to their business hours. So, again, that is usually not an issue for me, but when I'm trying to work around going live on YouTube, that can be a problem. But I will tell you, one of the worst things about living here is the traffic. And I know you think the traffic is bad in the place that you live. It may be bad, but I don't know that I can impress on you the horribleness of the traffic here in Mexico City. Remember, I said that time does not work the same way. So when you have to go somewhere, I always tell people, at minimum, give yourself an hour to get there. And I know people don't listen to me. And they come here and they put the thing in Google, they put it in Move It, and they're like, oh, I could be there in 20 minutes. Lies. Anything can happen on any given day here. And like, if all the things were perfect, it might take 20 minutes. But you didn't know that there was a protest. And then they decided to close down this road. And now all of a sudden it takes you 2 hours to get there instead of 20 minutes. And that is not hyperbole. Talk to anybody who lives in this city, and they can give you multiple examples of where it took them hours to get somewhere. Remember, I said I love the fact that I don't need a car, that I can walk and I can take transit. The traffic is more of an issue on the few times that I need to Uber somewhere. I typically reserve Ubers for trips to the airport, and like it generally when I'm running late, but that's like the worst time to take an Uber, particularly on a Friday night. It feels like everybody in the city is outside and they're all trying to go somewhere. So the traffic is horrible. When I first moved here, I went to Costco. A friend of mine had a Costco membership, and I was like, hey, can you take me? I want to get a few things for my new apartment. That Costco was less than 3 miles from where I lived, and it was on a Friday afternoon. It took us 2.5 hours to get from Costco to my house. So I do not like the traffic. It almost seems like there is always traffic here. So I would put that into the category of the worst things. Um, My other there there's really when people ask me, "What don't I like about living here?" I usually give them 2 things. 1 is the traffic, 2 is the lack of trash cans. Now, each part of the city is divided into 16 alcaldías, which are kind of like counties. They each have their own thing going. But in the vast majority of those 16, you won't find, even like on a main street, you won't find trash cans. So, your dog has pooped or you finished your coffee or your hot chocolate and you got this cup, you got this bag of dog poop, you're like, where do I put it? What do I do with it? There's it's highly unlikely there's going to be a trash can available. And during rainy season sometimes the city has been known to flood, and often the official information from the city is y'all need to not throw things in the gutter. And I'm like, but if you had trash cans, people might not do that. But don't even get me started on the gutters, which are like this big. It makes no sense. So that is my big pet peeve, is that to find a public trash can, you either have to go to somebody's business, which really isn't a public trash can, or you need to go to a park. Now, despite the lack of widespread trash can availability, this is actually a very clean city given its size and given the number of people. If you've ever been to New York City, it's not like that. It is not like that. People who spend time in New York City come here and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, this city is so clean. What? Y'all don't have rats running amok outside?" So, despite the lack of trash cans, which I do think is a problem, this is still a very, very clean city. Um, okay. Um, the other worst thing about living here is the buildings are primarily constructed out of concrete, and we do not have central heat, which means in the winter, when temperatures are cooler, it can get really cold inside of your apartment. And for me, that is a struggle because when I think of winter, even though I'm from Houston, Texas, which barely ever has a real winter, I think about if it's cold outside, I should go into my home and it should be like cozy and toasty. And that will never happen for you here. It is very common that it will actually be cooler in your apartment than it is outside. Now, is that a life-altering, horrible thing? No, but it can be annoying, when you're trying to get warm, uh, it can be annoying, and then after you've been inside and you're cold and you get dressed for that and you get outside and you're like, "It's 70 degrees out here. You don't need all these clothes." Um, so the other worst thing I think I would say, and this is probably going to give me a lot of angry folks in the comments, um, is Mexico City has become really popular over the last 3 years. When I lived here in 2017, there were nowhere near the number of foreigners here visiting that there are now. Um, and probably one of the worst things about living here is the influx of foreigners with no home training. Now, I'm talking about people who don't know how to act, people who haven't been places, that don't understand, like you go into a restaurant and the people don't speak English and you pitch a fit about it. Like how are you going to go to someone else's home and be mad that they don't speak your language? Like those people, and because of the abundance of them that are here now, that has made this a less pleasant place to live. Um, So they need some cultural competency because they're bringing down the vibe. Okay. Um, Now, some things that like that's the extent of my list about the worst things about living here. And I know there's probably somebody watching who's thinking, well, what about the earthquakes? And for other people, not me, that might be on their list. Um, and I don't know how you can hold that against a place. Like every I thought everybody knew that Mexico sits in the middle of two plate boundaries. There's one on the Pacific coast, there's one on the Atlantic coast. Like, of course, this is a Mexico City itself is surrounded by volcanic mountains. Like, of course, there are going to be earthquakes here. How am I going to be upset about the presence of earthquakes in a place like this? But earthquakes happen all over the world. Every place is going to have natural disasters, and there's nothing you can do about them. So that doesn't make my list. But I know that for some people, they would put that on their list. Something else that other people might put on their list, but really isn't that big of a deal for me, is the uncertainty that exists. People say this all the time. The only thing for sure in Mexico is uncertainty. Like we've talked about this before. You're going to a government office and you've done your work, you've gone to the website to prepare for your appointment, and you get there and they're like, no, that's not what we need. We have this other list of requirements. And you, as a foreigner, are like, but the website said, don't matter what the website said. Uh, the, just because something was done this way on Monday when you visited, when you go back on Thursday, it may be different. And I have just accepted that that is the way life works here. But for a lot of people, they don't like that. And that makes living here very unpleasant for them. So, again, not something I would put on my list, but that is something other people have issue with. If anything, I think living in this environment has actually made me like better at pivoting and what is it? Not alternate plans, but like always having like I can't find the word. Not a backup plan, but really being able to, roll with the punches, so to speak. Okay, I could see this. D hates the import charges, delivery fees here when I order something simple online, say la vie. Um, the fees are the fees, it's gonna cost what it's gonna cost. But I would maybe amend my list a little bit to say the uncertainty of will it actually get here? Because short of ordering something from Amazon or a Mexican company based in Mexico, short of that, anytime I have ordered something online, it is always a gamble. Will it actually show up? I have ordered things from a couple of folks and they had tracking. They sent it like USPS. They had tracking, but once it gets to Mexico, that tracking is over. And then, like you wait a little bit. And so finally I reached out to the person I bought it from, and they were like, well, wait about another 2 weeks to a month to see if it shows up. Like, I don't love that. I don't love that. But is that like a deal breaker? I don't think so. Um, Again, I think our expectations about online commerce coming from the US, where things are so consumption centered, you know, the rest of the world isn't like that in the same way. So that's my list. I'm sure it's not a shock for most of you that my list of the worst things about living here is very short, very minimal. I'm a Mexico City stan, so I don't have a very long list. But as I said yesterday, this is not a place for everybody. There are a lot of people who are like, that is too much city for me. There are too many people. People don't like the pollution. I don't even notice the pollution until I can see it. And then I'm just like, it's polluted today. It doesn't ruin my day. Okay. So yeah, I'm from Houston, one of the smoggiest places in the United States. So again, not a big deal for me. Not a big deal. All right. I see this question. Are you and Ivana doing a vision board party for 2024? Yes, we are. We're doing a two-part vision board party. The first part is on December 30th. The second is on January 6th, but it sold out in like 3 days. So that's why you haven't heard me talk about it, because it's already sold out. So yeah. But I will say this, there is a link in the description to get on the mailing list, because that's where we always release information first, as we offer workshops and different events. So if you want to make sure you are the first to know next time we do something, um, that's how you do that. There are a lot of pet food brands here. The store Petco has locations here. My dog eats imported Canadian food. So um, I can't give you lots of details. I know there are a bunch of brands, but the brand she eats, I have to get imported from Canada because my dog is extra like that. All right, y'all. I think that is it for today. Tomorrow is December 24th. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. We are going to have a live Ask Me Anything Q&A kind of deal tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. And then on Christmas Day, the last day of Vlogmas, we'll do a recap of like cost of living, because I just realized I have not done a cost of living video for 2023. I did one in 2021, I did one in 2022, haven't done one this year. So that's what we will do on Wednesday. So thanks for hanging out. The folks watching on the replay, I appreciate y'all. Everybody, send me positive vibes that this apartment I'm going to go look at is not something crazy. And that between this one and the one I look at on Tuesday, that we have a winner. All right. See y'all tomorrow.